Welcome to New Hampshire Business and Economic Affairs Northern Border Regional Commission State Economic Infrastructure Development Program Information Session. NBRC SEID is a federal program that is in partnership with the state of New Hampshire as well as the states of Maine, Vermont, and New York. The federally funded program invests in economic development and infrastructure that leads to the creation of jobs, helps to lower poverty, unemployment, and outmigration. It is important to remember that infrastructure is as NBRC defines it. This definition can be found in the application manual at nbrc.gov. New Hampshire's eligible counties are Belknap, Carroll, Cheshire, Coos, Grafton, and Sullivan. Applicants need to be an eligible entity, as well as co-applicants, state governments, local governments, other political subdivisions of states, nonprofit entities. NBRC funds cannot be used as pass-through, meaning that the eligible applicant receives grant funds to then be distributed to a non-eligible entity. Nonprofits will need a current certificate of good standing from the state of New Hampshire. This is uploaded with the application. IRS determination of nonprofit status, also uploaded with the application. And you should also make sure that you have a System for Awards Management number, and if not, complete the registration to obtain one. The SAM number is not required to apply. It is, however, required if the entity is selected for funding. The process of applying. Visit the nbrc.gov website and review the application manual and timeline. New Hampshire Business of Economic Affairs is offering project coaching. We encourage you to sign up online at nbrc-nh.com. Start on your letter of interest now. It is required this year and does require a fair amount of information. The letter of interest is due April 22nd. Applications can only be submitted through the online portal. This opens at nbrc.gov on May 16th. Do not wait for the portal to open. Start outlining your application now using the manual as guidance. A few things to remember is that the NBRC requires a resolution by your legal authority providing authorization to the executive to make and sign the application. Examples of legal authorities include select boards, councils, and commissions, state authorized officials, or state boards and boards of directors, or trustees for nonprofits. The resolution needs to be attached and submitted with the applications. Once again, applications are due online June 3rd. Do not wait till the last minute to submit. The SEID grant timeline is as shown. Updates or changes to the timeline can be found on the nbrc.gov website. Each year, NBRC reviews the level of distress in the service area. This determines the county and town eligibility for NBRC grant funding. Eligibility falls into three categories: distress, transitional, and attainment. Projects located in distressed areas are eligible for an 80% grant and 20% match. Coos and Sullivan counties fall into the distress category. Projects located in transitional areas are eligible for a 50% grant and 50% match. Cheshire County falls into the transitional category. Projects that are located in attainment areas are not eligible for NBRC funding unless the project is in an area of isolated distress or has requested and been granted a significant benefit waiver. And then the project is eligible for a 50% grant and a 50% match. Attainment counties are Belknap, Carroll, and Grafton. Again, Belknap, Carroll, and Grafton counties are considered attainment areas, meaning they are not eligible for NBRC funding except for projects located in towns that are determined to be an area of isolated distress. A listing of these towns can be found on the NBRC website, or the project has submitted and been granted a significant benefit waiver. If your project is located in an attainment county and is not in a town that is determined to be an isolated area of distress, but could bring significant economic benefits to distressed or transitional areas, you will need to complete a significant benefit waiver. This waiver is due on April 22nd with the letter of interest. NBRC has two levels of funding limits: infrastructure and non-infrastructure. Up to $1 million for infrastructure projects, as NBRC defines infrastructure, can be for the construction, alteration, or repair of transportation infrastructure, basic public infrastructure, telecommunication, renewable and alternative energy. For non-infrastructure projects, funding requests can be up to $350,000 and can be used for business and workforce development, basic health care, resource conservation, tourism, and recreation. For more information about infrastructure and non-infrastructure projects, you would want to refer to the application manual. NBRC has a set of scoring criteria for all states. This criteria looks at readiness, it looks at alignment with NBRC's strategic plan, and how does it meet the goals and objectives with state and/or regional plans. The NBRC strategic plan is at nbrc.gov. For the state of New Hampshire, the Economic Recovery and Expansion Strategy can be found at nheconomy.com. And for regional plans or comprehensive economic development strategies, you should connect with your local development district or BEA's program managers to see what plans you should be looking at for your project. It also looks at what are the economic impacts, what is the private investment, and what is the organizational capacity. In addition to NBRC's scoring criteria, New Hampshire has its own scoring priorities. For New Hampshire, the priorities are: invests in infrastructure that provides long-term community and economic impacts, expands New Hampshire's skilled workforce, builds regional capacity to carry out economic development strategies, supports and encourages entrepreneurship and innovation, leverages existing local and regional resources to promote economic growth, demonstrates organizational capacity to implement and sustain project readiness, and funding need. Once again, the letter of interest is due April 22nd. The letter of interest must include the LOI PDF fillable form, narrative of no more than 3 pages, budget SF 424 CBW, budget narrative, and a 75% waiver for prior SEID recipients and significant benefit waiver for those in attainment areas. Again, to stress that the letter of interest is required and due by April 22nd. It must be submitted as one PDF: the LOI fillable PDF form, the project narrative, the budget SF 424 CBW, the budget narrative, as well as the 75% expenditure waiver and significant benefit waiver, if applicable to your project. Responses to submitted letter of interest will be May 1st, and note that letters of interest are reviewed for eligibility. They are not scored, and the material will not carry over into the application. Depending on where your project is located, either in a distressed, transitional, or attainment area, your project requires match. Forms of match can be municipal lending, commitment from project partners, volunteer services, municipal force accounts, donated land or equipment. This match must be identified in your application as to source and whether it is committed or pending. It's important to remember that funds for a project that have previously been committed or expended should not be listed as match, as they cannot be counted. Again, a review of the timeline. For updates to this timeline, you will want to visit nbrc.gov. Each NBRC award is required to utilize a local development district for grant administration, unless they are an agency of state government or have requested and received an LDD waiver approval from NBRC prior to the submission of the SEID application. LDD waiver requests are due May 6th. If you are using a local development district for grant administration, the formula is 2% of the NBRC award and must be included in the budget. This year, NBRC has created a new National Environmental Policy Act intake form. Applicants need to complete the NEPA intake form with their application. This form will determine the level of NEPA analysis required if a proposed project is funded. All proposed projects must be completed by September 30th of 2025. If a project is utilizing multiple funding sources that are federal, including NBRC, no more than 80% of the total project cost can be federal funds. It is important for applicants to check with other federal sources, as each federal agency may have its own restrictions. So once again, we encourage you to submit your project at nbrc-nh.com for project coaching and technical assistance. We cannot stress enough to review the application manual from front to back. Check the NBRC website for updates, and do not wait to the last minute to start. Start now. For a full listing of the local development districts, you can visit nbrc.gov for this information. Once again, the New Hampshire Business and Economic Affairs NBRC Technical Assistance Program is at nbrc-nh.com. NHBEA's State Program Manager contact information is listed, as well as NBRC staff's contact information. If you have any questions about whether your project might be eligible, please feel free to reach out or submit your project through the Technical Assistance Program. Thank you for joining us.